Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to MindShifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeanie. Michael and Jeanie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rahma. Michael is the author of Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeanie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeanie Ryce.
And the truth that is rooted within me.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to MindShifters Radio. We are live from Heartland in Theodosia, Missouri. So the chat room is open, and Dr. Tim and Sam are out there, and we are going to be, though, speaking live from our teaching center. So I'm not going to be operating the switchboard, so we're not going to be able to take call-in. But if you've got something in the chat room, or something like that, please make a note, and we'll try to get back to it and address it. Michael, hi. Hello.
You got me.
Okay.
Oh, hi there. I had my mute button on.
Are you there? There's no sound. Well, technical difficulties, everybody. Michael, if you can hear me, we cannot hear you.
Jeanie?
Yes, now there you are.
Okay. Cool. Have you got me now? Can you hear me?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Seems like maybe I've got a little bit of a technical problem here with my phone.
You need to bring it closer to your mouth or something, though, because it is rather muffled.
Is that better?
A little bit? Yep.
A little bit better? Okay, cool.
Yes.
Great. Well, let me just pin this up. We're sitting in the teaching center with everybody looking quizzically going, Michael, what are you doing? And what we're doing is our radio show live from Heartland.
You just disappeared again, Michael. You're gone. This might not work. We were hoping to be able to do this live so that we could multitask here and do the intensive and also do the radio show at the same time. So we'll keep giving it a try here. You all hang in there with us.
If you would like to download the worksheet, www.whyagain.com. Right here inside the few minutes, just click that one. And that's
Jeanie? Jeanie, are you there?
Are you not hearing me, Tim? Hello, Tim.
Okay. Michael?
Yes, sir.
It sounded as though your phone wasn't working and someone else in the room had a phone on and we could hear you in the faint distance. We couldn't understand anything you said.
Ouch. Well, that's not good. Okay. Well, give me a second here. There are no phones on in the room, but let me just see if this is interfering with the ear system. Oh, are you on the show? No. Well, that's okay then. It wouldn't have any effect. Is that better, Tim?
Yeah, it's not as strong as you were just a minute ago when you first started responding to me.
Can you hear me, Tim?
I heard, can you hear me, Tim? Right now there's nothing.
Tim?
Yes, Tim, I heard.
Hello?
Just the one word.
You can hear me now?
I heard Tim, and can you hear me now? But there were these big spaces where I heard nothing.
Okay. Well, we've got a little bit of technical difficulty with the phone. Let me just see if I can work that through, and we'll go for it.
Well, I heard that sentence.
This is the first time we've done this. Is that any better, Tim?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Can you hear me now, Tim?
Yes.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Opportunities.
Michael, can you hear me? Hello, Michael.
Tim, are you there?
I heard that last one. I've been hearing you, but you haven't been hearing me.
What fun. Okay,
Michael,
let's try it again.
Can you hear me now?
We got anything happening there?
Michael?
Something wrong with my headset, it looks like. Let me take that one off. I think I've got another one out in the car. Just give me a second.
Sam, can you hear me? Okay, thanks, Sam. Sam says she can hear me.
Okay, let's see if that's any better.
All right, I heard okay. You see if that's any better?
All right. So I apparently have a defective headset, so I'm just reaching for another headset.
Are you hearing me, Michael?
I can hear you loud and clear, Tim, yes.
All right, good.
Okay, I've got another headset on. Can you hear me now, Tim?
Yes.
Are you there, Tim?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello, Michael.
He can't hear you. Let me go out here and tell him that you can't hear. Hold on just a minute. Michael, he can't hear you.
I got it.
So, Michael, you can't hear me.
No, he's not able to hear you.
Well, so for now, we can
Hello?
hear him, so he could let her rip.
There he is.
So I can hear all of you talking.
Testing. Hello, hello.
We can
Can
hear
you hear now,
Michael.
Michael? We're hearing you, Michael.
You can hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. I don't know exactly what's happening with our technical game here, but I can't hear you, but you can hear me now. All right, awesome. Then let's go with the workshop, and I'll just not listen to you. Damn, I can't.
Well, this isn't working.
No, it's not going to work.
No. He either has to hold it closer.
I'm telling you right now. Hold on just a second. When you put it in your pocket, I can hear you putting the pocket in the muffling and all that.
Uh-huh.
I can't hear you talking now.
Okay, so it's gone?
Let's see that. Oh, yeah.
I'm talking. Is there anything there?
We can hear now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
he's on the room.
And if it doesn't,
Nope. Done. We keep losing him, so not sure how we're going to be able to do this.
Is he putting his phone in his pocket?
He did.
There. How's that now?
Well,
Yeah.
I can hear that.
Well, I'll just
He's got it. You'll hold.
So we're on day 48 or 49. I've lost track of our celebration of Memorial Day. And for those who are new to the show, who aren't familiar with what we're talking about, on Memorial Day, we decided that the way we would honor those who have been forced to murder or be murdered in war, to be injured, to be maimed, and taken those injuries and those emotional scars back home and the people who were touched by them, a way to honor them was for us to put an end to war. How are we going to do that? The request that we're making is that everyone be willing each day that they listen to the show to look at one issue where you have some form of hostility or fear, some form of grievance that you're willing to let go of, that you're willing to forgive. And the forgiveness process, the worksheet that we're about to tap into, is on our website, www.whyagain.com. And we've been covering the process of forgiveness in our workshop here at Heartland, and we're just getting ready to step into the reality management process, the forgiveness process. We've talked about the idea that forgiveness is about changing the content of our carbon-based memory system. It's about removing what never belonged within the structure. And that our goal here is to empower people to remove everything that's based in any form of hostility or fear. And so from our earlier session, for those that are in the class here, if you're on the show for the first time, we're live from Heartland, and we have a live audience in front of us who from our morning session may have some comments or some questions. Anyone have any questions for us? Yes, you.
Well, I have a comment.
Yes.
Now that we've been here more intensively,
yes,
I'm starting to digest from the mind into the action. What it means that when you have forgiven a trait of you, part of you and energy, then with example you do how to handle a situation that is not it's not what you expected or it has.
Right.
So
if you could lower your volume, David.
when you said that things will happen or life still happens.
Right.
But then you will be in a different state of mind, of consciousness, of love, and then you could even say, oh, what's happening to you? There's anything I can help you, instead of being resonating with that
pain or trauma.
Pain or trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said it, something inside of me shifted, and I was able to understand, but in my whole body, what it would be healing.
That sounds like another level of introduction to your body. You know, one of the things we talked about before our intermission was incarnating. And it sounds like another level of you incarnating in your own form. And it's the being, and then we define being, if you want a definition of being, it's try holding a newborn, and you know exactly what a human being is. That's the only part they can understand. The body's mind can't understand anything. All they can do is gather information and try to figure things out from its information. But if the answers aren't in the structure, the answers aren't going to be forthcoming. But the idea of the work is to come to a direct experience of being, which is where understanding and true human function exists, and then to introduce that into your body. So it sounds like what you're describing is you just gave your body a whole new level of experience. In the ancient teachings, that was called being born again. And you remember they said, I die daily and am born in Christ. In what? That mind of Christ is the mind of love, the mind we're designed to live in. It's not a religious principle. It's a simple fact that we human beings are made of this stuff called love. And when we're not living out of that, we're not living. It's not a human life. And so it sounds like you just hit a new level of your human existence. Introduced it into your carbon-based memory system, into your body's mind. That's exactly what we're here to do. That's the whole idea of the forgiveness process.
We're talking about it, and I felt that I understood it. Revelation.
The whole energy system, yeah. We had talked before our intermission about a fellow named Richard, who was at one of our workshops in Sarasota several years ago, who had the experience you were talking about and actually lived in it for several days until he found his son doing something that he disapproved of, and all of a sudden his whole new experience of living and being collapsed, and he was right back to that whole carbon-based memory bank, the memory bank of the past that interprets everything through hostility and fear. And as you clear out each layer of hostility and fear, you introduce to this body-mind unit a new level of expression. If you listen to Paul in the ancient teachings, he spoke about the goal of the work being to be of like mind with Christ. What mind did Christ think with? He thought with the mind of love, which is the mind of being, the newborn energy. Hold a newborn, you know what the mind of love feels like. We're designed to live in that mind. And so Paul was saying the goal of the work was to be of that mind instead of what we call the mind of the body, which just runs whatever content it's there. We're identifying that as the replicate mind that just replays whatever content is in there. And to introduce the absolute active presence of love to that body-mind unit and to every part of it that holds any form of hostility or fear becomes the goal of the work. So if you think of the mind that is of the newborn, that would be called the mind of Christ. And then logically, what would you call that which would go against living in the mind of Christ? That would take you out of love. That would logically be called the anti-Christ. Now, of course, the mind that lives in denial, or this so-called mind, the thing that tries to pretend to be a mind, that lives in denial and wants to blame everybody else, has got somebody else to blame. Somebody out there did it to me. And, of course, what's that mind looking for? It's looking for somebody out there to be the Antichrist. But if you look at that Antichrist idea from the ancient Aramaic, they understood exactly the physics of physiology and how it works. And your body-mind unit is a device that stores every frequency that comes to it and stores it holographically in every cell, including the sperm and the egg, and those frequencies are passed from generation to generation to generation. When you recognize that your body-mind unit is a device, if you ask a modern-day physiologist what this so-called body is made of, they'll tell you that its base element is carbon. The basic element of your physiology is carbon. And it is this carbon-based memory system that stores and holds every frequency. Now, if you ask a physicist what the carbon atom is made up of, they will tell you that the basic carbon atom is made of 6 electrons, 6 protons, and 6 neutrons. 666. Oh, maybe they knew what they were talking about in the ancient Aramaic when they talked about the Antichrist and its number being 666. What's the only thing that will ever take you out of the active presence of love? It is whatever content is in your carbon-based memory system. And when we have hostility or fear, and an event in our lives comes along and resonates that, then that hostility and fear-based mind tears us out of love, takes us out of the direct experience. In fact, over the years of doing this work, I can't tell you how many people have come up to me after a workshop and said, Michael, I don't have a clue what you're talking about when you talk about love. There is no recognition and no recollection of functioning as a human being, as the active presence of love. And for many people, this is the first introduction to the idea that we as humans are designed to function out of the active presence of love. And the process of forgiveness is that of removing from this carbon-based memory system what never belonged in it. And so if you're on the show and you've had the time to go to your computer and download the worksheet, we're going to look at the 7-step, the latest iteration of the 7-step reality management process. And you'll notice down in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a V7 2011 number 6. So this is the 6th version of the worksheet since January. And we've got some other significant changes, or minor but significant changes in the worksheet. If you're using the last version of the worksheet or any one of the last 4 or 5 versions, the shift will be minor, but the points are important keys that we're going to cover. So what we're going to invite you to do is to think about a situation in your life where some forgiveness is appropriate for you, where you've experienced some form of hostility or fear. And in order to be on the same page for instruction's sake, we're going to ask everybody to pick a situation that involves another person. Ultimately, this worksheet can be used in regard to any person, place, thing, or event, past, present, future, living, or dead, including yourself. So any object of attention can be named in number 1A. But for instruction's sake, we're going to ask everyone to look at number 1A and place the name of another person, just so we're all on the same page for instruction's sake. And I'm going to do a worksheet up here on the board that comes from working with a gal who had a problem with her boss. So number 1A for her would be the boss. And my board's still wet, so I need to get dry. So number 1A would be the boss. And then you'll see there's a set of brackets there with 2 dashes in it. That's where we're going to ask you to put your initials. As a reminder throughout the worksheet that this is a process about you. It's not about anybody else but you. And so number 1A, the boss, and then your initials. And whoever you're going to name in number 1A, we ask you to write your initials in the blank so that you've got that reminder that this worksheet is about you. Now, you could go on and do the whole worksheet and miss the rest of what I'm going to say. What I'm going to invite you to do is just to go through one step at a time, so that as you go through step by step, you have the opportunity to get every bit of information possible out of the worksheet. This worksheet's been in development for a little better than 25 years. This is probably at least version 3017. And every word has been tested and tried. It's there for a reason. And my goal is to give you as much information about the use of this worksheet as I possibly can. So far you've just got the name and a set of initials. And we're going to go back to the top of the worksheet. Premise: our essential nature as human beings is love. Think newborn. The work of healing is to remove anything that is unlike our true nature so that we come back to the experience of love 24/7, 365. So that's where we want to go. In number 1A, I, love, have, through denial, trained my carbon-based memory to show me the lie that feelings and my giving up the experience of my essence love are caused by my trigger. Now, most people believe that the person who triggers something in them has nothing whatsoever to do with being triggered. It's caused. How many here have ever said to somebody, you made me angry, you made me sad, you made me afraid, you made me this, you made me that? So to be able to say that means you have to be totally and completely unconscious of cause. Because you'll notice, if you've been through a particular painful reality 87 different times with 42 different people, each time you probably told yourself the lie, you made me feel this. And you'll notice that you're the only one that was there every time. What you're feeling, and all feelings, are nothing but a warning signal of something going on within your structure. So when you say, you made me, you have to dissociate from the part of you with which you caused those feelings. Living in that space is called living in blockage of truth. I've got everybody else to blame, and I pull out the big guns, my best hostility, my best intimidation, when I'm in that state of denial and wanting to blame somebody else. And so what we're looking to do, and you'll see that the words my trigger are in bold italics. The key reason for that is because you don't believe that they're your trigger, you believe they're your cause if you're living in the normal world today. And if you believe someone is cause, that is in fact just a trigger, what will happen is you'll do a huge quantity of work and never be able to resolve the issue. Let's use an example. Let's imagine that we bring a man from the jungles of South America who's never seen anything more complex than a dugout canoe. And we ask this man to tell us what it is as he sits on a riverbank where there's a drawbridge. We ask him to tell us what it is that causes a bridge to go up. And he sits and he watches, and each time a boat comes along, the bridge goes up, and each time the boat goes away, the bridge goes down. He watches this happen 12, 24 times, and he comes to the obviously mistaken conclusion that boats cause bridges to go up. Now, can boats cause bridges to go up? Absolutely not. Julie, do you need one of these? Here we are. Here, let's see. It's a new one. I don't think you've seen that one yet, unless you've been on the website recently. So we asked him to tell us what causes bridge to go up, and he believes it's the boats. And there is no causal relationship between the boat and the bridge going up, though the boat is a trigger. The cause of the bridge going up is that the bridge sender sees the boat and pushes a button. The button flips a relay. The relay delivers power to a motor. The motor delivers torque to a gear, and the turning of the gear causes the bridge to go up. Now, if our friend from the jungles sticks to the mistaken belief that boats cause bridges to go up, and let's imagine his assignment becomes making sure the bridge never goes up again, what does he have to do? If he sticks to the mistaken belief that boats cause bridges to go up, he basically has to at least change the direction of every boat in the world, potentially, right? You might have noticed that it's been rather futile to get everybody else to change. It's a lot of work trying to get everybody else to change, but even if you can get them to change, that does nothing to change the contents of your mind. And so to recognize that feelings are a signal that there's something happening in your structure, and if you blame what triggers that happening in your structure for what's going on there, you get stuck, you get lost in that blame game and the projection that the cause is outside of you. What we're looking to do is to get past the projections of this carbon-based memory system and recognize that it's all an inside job. It's happening within us. And so the second step, or number 1B, is to describe what happens. So very briefly, just describe the situation that you're working on. And for this gal, number 1B was the boss picks on me. Now notice as you write what's happening, observe what takes place with your breath. Has anybody noticed anything happening with your breath? No. You held it. So when life resonates something that we want to pretend belongs outside of us and doesn't belong to us, the way that we dissociate from that which we're feeling is by holding the breath. The way we cut ourselves off from awareness that it's ours is by locking down and holding the breath. And so you'll notice on the worksheet there are at several germane points, there's a reminder to breathe, to keep the breath moving, to keep it active, to keep it flowing. And so I should describe what happened very briefly, and this is just for your use. I'm not going to be turning it in, so you can just use a few keywords that tap you into the situation you're working on. Then in number 1C, what are you feeling? In that situation, and sometimes our feelings are pre-verbal, and you'll notice on the right-hand side of the page there's a little box that says draw your feelings. That box is the place where if your feelings are something you don't have words for, you can just do a line drawing of them. That was actually something that came into the worksheet courtesy of Julie, who used that with children and found it to be effective. And we found that with adult children it's effective too. So draw your feelings if it's hard to put them into words. And then in number 1C is you name the feelings in that situation. what we invite you to do is to make sure that you're using words that actually describe feelings, not thoughts. In our intellectually oriented culture, we oftentimes substitute thoughts for feelings. So people would look at the situation with the boss and say, well, I know what she feels. She feels like the boss shouldn't pick on her. Well, that's not a feeling. That's a thought. So her feelings are anger and fear. So actually use words that actually represent your feelings. As you breathe. And then we're going to ask you for a moment to just close your eyes. And as you close your eyes, we're going to ask you to go inside and to run through a series of feelings. And if you would, just let yourself start out and allow yourself to feel anger. And just notice where in your physiology you're feeling the anger. Take a breath, let the anger soften, and let it go. And then for a moment, go to the feeling of sadness. And notice where in your physiology you're feeling this sadness. Take a breath, let that area soften, and let the sadness go. And then for a moment, allow yourself to go to the feeling of fear. And notice where you're feeling that fear. Take a breath, let it soften, and let it go. And then imagine yourself holding a newborn child. Actually, place your hands in the posture you would have them if you were holding and looking into the face of a newborn. And as you look into the face of the newborn, again, posturing your body as though you were actually holding a newborn. Look into the face of the newborn. And allow yourself to smile. Allow the energy of your smile. For those that don't know what smile means, your lips actually turn upward. You want to let that shift happen in your body. Your lips actually turn upward. And allow that smile to warm the frontal lobes of the brain and your eyes. In the frontal lobes of the brain is the switch for love in the human system, the gateway for bringing human life into the structure. And so focus into the eyes of that newborn, totally, completely engulfing that newborn in that smile. And notice what happens in your physiology. Imagine that the face of the newborn turns into your face. And you bring that newborn from the posture you're holding it in into your own physiology. You actually breathe and draw the newborn energy, your newborn energy, your awesome active presence of love into your own physiology. And then open your eyes. What did you do in order to feel each feeling that you just felt? We asked you to start out with anger, fear, sadness, love. What activity took place for you to move from one of those feelings to another to another? So you had a thought, and your thought shifted your feelings. Is that the point? Okay. So if when you have a thought and you change from one thought to another, your feelings change, what does that make feelings? The result of thought, the effect of thought. So feelings are not the effect of something that happens in your world. Things happen in your world, and those things that happen stimulate thoughts. And those thoughts warn you of their quality by the feelings you experience. If you hook the feeling state up to an external event, you totally skip over the cause of the feelings, which are always internal. And when you hook up to an exterior event, you made me angry, you made me sad when you did this, when you did that, you lock yourself out of the part of your mind with which you created those feelings. And with which you created the whole reality that you're experiencing, the whole output of your mind. And so as you move from thought to thought to thought to thought, your feelings change. There was a man named Yeshua 2,000 years ago who said, I'm in this world, but not of this world. What was he saying? He was saying the events don't just automatically trigger thoughts in me and that runs my life. Events happen. I choose the thoughts with which I run my life. If we're not aware of that, then the difficulty becomes we create a set of feelings with our thought, and then we totally dissociate and cut ourselves off from that process and want to blame everybody else for the feelings that we're having. And so the next step in the worksheet, by the way, in this little 2-minute experiment that we just did, whose thoughts caused your feelings? Obviously, they were yours, right? If yesterday, last week, last month, last year, 10 years ago, you had some form of emotional or turmoil or pain, whose thought had to be resonating in your physiology for you to feel it? Clearly has to be yours. If tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, 10 years from now, you have some form of emotional turmoil or pain, whose thought is going to be causing that emotional turmoil or pain? Absolutely going to be yours. How many expect to experience some form of emotional turmoil or pain at some point in the future?
Not me.
Not me? No? All finished with it? Awesome. Well, if anybody out there in Radio Land answered yes, I'd ask you, why would you do that to yourself? Why would you create emotional turmoil or pain? And most people, well, I don't create the emotional turmoil or pain. It's those people out there that are all those bad guys, and it's all their fault. Right? Excuse me. Someone I used to know used to say, No. The events don't cause anything. They resonate what's already resident in you. And when you're willing to take responsibility for your feelings, because it is only your thoughts that create your feelings, then you can change those feelings. What tends to happen is we tend to build relationships with people who have matching bags of garbage, and each one blames the other for the direction that their lives are going rather than taking responsibility for what they're doing to themselves. And so we're going to invite you to do something that's rather unique for a human being on planet Earth to do today. We're going to ask you to absolutely take responsibility for your feelings. And in the worksheet that you're doing, in number 1C, you wrote about a situation, number 1A, and then a feeling in number 1C. We're going to ask you now to specifically and precisely identify what thought you use to cause that feeling. What's the thought going on in you that you create that feeling with? Are you breathing? Trying to. Okay? So, feelings are shadows of thoughts, warning signals that our creative process is off base. Probably the greatest atrocity done to us as human beings and that we've bought into is that we've hidden from us the fact that we are by nature creators. And we've hidden the way it is that we create what happens in our lives. And we create it with our thoughts. And when we deny and dissociate from our thoughts, then the warning signal that tells us that our creative process is off base, hostility and fear, we want to blame somebody else for. What's happening? Go for it. What did you just touch into? Something big by the look of it. Awesome. What's happening? Mm-hmm. Wow, that's a big one. So, if you couldn't hear us in the radio audience, young lady that's here in the intensive just shared that as she started tapping into the thought that was at the root of her turmoil, with a great deal of emotional energy up came the thought that I don't know how to be happy. But you know what? The answer to that's easy. All you have to do is forgive unhappiness, and all that's left is happiness. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to know how to do it. It's your natural state. Think about the newborn. You know, bypassing the way the newborn is oftentimes very brutally born into the world or pulled into the world. If you look at that newborn, its natural condition is aliveness, joy, love, and happiness. That's your natural condition. And we've been trained by the generations to do something else. Remember that in order to get out of the desert, this is the code word in the ancient teachings for the unconscious. They said the old generation had to die off. These old thoughts, these causes of happiness, of rage, of grief, of pain, of loss, of turmoil, are there to be forgiven. What's happening? Your whole body shaking. Looks like process to me. So you look like you're right at the edge of process point where the veil is open and stuff's moving big time. That's exactly where we want to support you being. It's awesome. That's a fabulous place to be. And notice that your whole cellular structure is involved in the process you're in right now. Say it again? Everything. So that, remember last night I talked in the intensive about process point? You want to get to process point? That's it. That's where we are. The veil is open. Stuff is moving. It's moving from every cell. I don't care if it's the big toe, the kneecap, the lung, the liver, everywhere. Everything moves. And you become more aware of being an energy being.
I had an image of me having happiness.
So you're saying that in your life you can see how you had opportunities for happiness and you would just push it away.
Yes, I didn't know what to be happy in. I was unfamiliar.
Right. So the situations that you're talking about, what I would offer is that what happened is those situations were situations that resonated, the generational images. You know, let's say if it's happiness in a relationship, gee, here's delight and aliveness and joy and creativity, but if my carbon-based memory says, no, relationships are supposed to be about pain and turmoil, protecting yourself and drama, then when those things resonate out of this carbon-based memory system, they take over, and here we go. Pain, turmoil, drama, and trauma runs me, and my opportunity for happiness is gone. So that's awesome to step into that level of process. And yeah, I can just see your whole body just quivering. Needle? Mm-hmm. Pins and needles? Start. Yeah. Breathe into it. Be with it. Let yourself feel it fully. Go for it. Remember, the symptoms of healing are identical to the symptoms of disease. You ever remember feeling like those pins and needles going in? Yeah? So
Breathe into it. It's an awesome space to be in. You're in the perfect place to be processing through that, letting it move. Everybody else breathing?
Yeah.
Go for it. Just don't feel it 100%. You're right on track. For those who are on the radio, we've got some deep process, so we're just going to stay with it for a moment. Like some pretty deep grief. Is it specific or attached to anything? Moving? Or is it just...
The document. Oh, you're doubling the space.
Breathe and just let everything soften. Let that energy move. That's what moving into high-speed process is about.
Right. Right.
There's that light that you're seeing off in the distance.
One second. I have like a light in front of me.
One into the light. And it embrace you fully. What's happening? All of a sudden your face looks a whole lot softer.
I feel like a giant. So, yeah. Right. Yeah.
So a huge hands reaching out from the light and embracing you. Mm.
Are you tasting happiness now? Looks good on you. Where you're designed to live. So for those who can't see, because we don't have a camera here, we're on radio. The face is just radiating light instead of turmoil, pain. This smile on your face comes from a deeper space than I've ever seen a smile come from your face before. So this is what's called a near-life experience. This is where we're designed to live. The total active presence of love. And the result that you're experiencing is a result of your dedication. January 2nd, you started to do this with such commitment. Your 5 worksheets a day, and you're just getting the fruit of that work right here, right now. That's awesome. Several people on the radio show know who you are because you called in several times. If I mentioned your name. Yeah. So we're working with Nene, and several of you have heard Nene speak before about her work and some of the pretty deep, energetic traumas that she's been working through in the last 6 or 7 months. And so the whole idea of forgiveness. You've trained your mind, you've trained the replicate mind to support you in the forgiveness and the healing process, and here it is. You're just right on track with it. And as it collapses and shuts out, you get to experience a real human life.
I feel some hands.
A lot of hands there supporting you?
Yeah, that's good.
Awesome. Nice work, Nene. Awesome.
The light is so bright I can't open it.
Stay with it. So that light is what surrounds you in all of creation all the time. And those who live in non-being never get to taste it, never get that experience. It's right there for them. We give it up for certain petty things. And our culture's taught us to give it up. We start out there. You might remember this guy 2,000 years ago that said, I am the light of the world. And then he used exactly the same words except for the pronoun, and he said, you are the light of the world. This is what he was talking about. No one hides their light under a bushel basket they want to see. What's the bushel basket he was talking about? Hostility and fear. That's the bushel basket that covers the light and keeps it from our own sight. But this is your natural condition. But notice that just the moment before, and when you were ready to collapse that reality, mind convinces you, I don't know how to be happy. And then when you collapse that, and again, you just clicked right into it because you've been doing this work daily for that 6 months. Card-based memory shuts up. Oop, gone. Some of us might need to do some worksheets on envy. For you just kicking into that and going, boom. Actually, an awesome film called Brother, Sun, Sister, Moon. And there's a scene in it where it's about St. Francis of Assisi, who just goes from this, playboy, wealthy, possession-oriented, performance-oriented person to where he was off to war and comes back with his non-being self-devastated and goes to refurbish a monastery and starts to tap into being. There's an interesting scene in it where one of his friends, so-called friends, becomes his enemy, just really pounds on him and wants to destroy him and actually sends an army out to attack him. And then later in the film, as they're brought back together, they're actually in Rome, and this guy says, and you, Francis, you just prance, we work so hard, you just prance in here and you pluck God right out of the air. Well, most instant successes aren't instant successes at all. They take some work, don't they, Nene? Remember, I used to have a studio in Nashville, and few people know this, but the instant success that everybody all of a sudden one day heard of called Willie Nelson, famous star. You know that Willie Nelson lived in his car on the streets of Nashville for 18 years before he became the instant overnight success? Collapsing carbon-based memory is what forgiveness is about. Awesome piece of work, young lady. Is there anything else you'd like to share about it?
I'm overwhelmed right now, but I feel cold.
Mm-hmm. How do you mean? Tell us more about it.
The cold before was freezing cold, and this cold is fresh. Fresh. Like the morning when it's fresh.
Mm-hmm. In terms of process work, physics, we call it an exothermic reaction. What's happening is the energy that's processing out is exiting heat from your structure. And I've seen people go through that and spend an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours in that state where there's this internal process of heat moving out of the cell and that coldness being experienced. I've also experienced people in the opposite direction where you can stand 3 feet from them and they feel like a furnace. So the heat exiting is moving outward and moving, and that's just part of that cellular release and that cellular processing.
And then I feel some part of my body contracting by itself.
Mm-hmm. Yep. As the energy moves, what happens when the energy moves across the muscle? Fire. Contraction. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is called being at process point. This is what I was inviting you last night to come and be willing, for everybody to come to the point of being willing to be at process point the whole time that you're here. Because the quantity of information we start looking at, we've got 1,000 generations of data in this genetic structure. To be able to open that veil, that barrier, and allow that stuff to move at this speed, and it's the speed of light. It takes us through massive amounts of information in seconds. I would bet if you did another personal code evaluation, was it 36 hours ago you did one? I bet you the crisis areas in your life would be disappeared right now. That's how you change those scores. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for being willing to share it with us. Woo! You'll be able to go back and listen to this in the archives on the radio show. That's fabulous. All right. Complete? Is it?
Hey, Tim, you still on? Tim?